Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Mastering Life Shorts webinar 19. Today we're learning to say no. So the reason behind this is exactly the opposite of the answer, is that so many times we find ourselves saying yes to things that we don't actually want to do. Maybe we don't have the time. Maybe we know that we're going to end up stressed because we've got too much going on. And we end up feeling stressed. We end up feeling resentful. We end up feeling overwhelmed. But why can't we say no to people? Sometimes especially in kink relationships, but sexually, we find it difficult to say no to people, and we end up regretting saying yes to things. And we knew that it didn't feel right at the beginning, and especially, as we said, in kinky relationships where there's a master-slave dynamic, sometimes people don't know how to say no, and that can be very, very problematic. So what is it about this word no that is so powerful, but so it keeps us away from doing it? What's going on? Well, if you think back to childhood, when someone says no to you as a child, you wanted something, you wanted some sweets, you wanted to go to the shops, you wanted to go to play, and someone said no, it was a rejection of you, it was a rejection of what you wanted, and it's very, very negative when you hear that word. On the other way round, if you say no as a child, you tend to be told off. How dare you? I've told you something. I've told you to do that. And therefore, children who say no is seen as a very bad thing. And it's inbuilt in us that if we say no, it's bad. As adults, we become a little broader in our understanding of behaviors, and we start to think in different ways about words, but we still have a set of beliefs about why we can't say no. Three of the main ones are: we think it's rude. We think that if we're going to say no to someone, it's unkind or disrespectful, or that we're going to hurt them by saying no, or we're going to disappoint them by saying no. That's especially in relationships, for example. In the workplace, quite often it's a fear of missing out problem, in that you think, if I say no to my boss, then possibly down the line, when he's trying to plan, or he's looking at bonuses, he'll come back and think, oh, no, he said no to that. The boss who wants you to stay late one night, or for a new project, and that you're overburdened. And you think to yourself, well, yeah, I'd like to do that project right now, but I can't. I don't have the time. But if I say no now, then maybe the next time there's a project, he won't come to me again. So there's that fear of missing out. So we go for things that we know we won't be able to put our full into. Or there's that feeling that we need to feel loved. And by saying no to someone, we might be feeling that we're going to be judged or criticized by the person we're saying no to. And therefore, it feels like we're turning it against ourselves. Now, last week, when I was talking about procrastination, I was talking about emotional regulation. And if you think about all of these are forms of emotional regulation. They are stopping a negative feeling in the future. So we say yes because it makes us feel like we're not being rude, that we're not going to miss out, that we are being pleasing for other people. There is a person called Susan Newman has said, saying yes is a habit for some. Others, it's almost an addiction that makes them feel needed, important, and contributing to someone else's life. So I wonder how many people watching this now are thinking, yeah, I'm addicted to saying yes. Now, I'm going to give an example of what happens and what we can do about it. And this example is just two neighbours talking to each other, and one neighbour asks the other neighbour if they can look after their dog for the weekend. Now, the neighbor who's doing the asking is going away, going to have a lovely time. The other neighbor had something planned, doesn't want to look after the dog. Maybe they wanted to have just a quiet weekend. Maybe they don't want to feel that they're tied to the house. They wanted to, go to the shops and things, but they feel they can't say no, because if they say no, then maybe down the line, the first neighbor who was doing the asking, that maybe they'll need a favor of them, and maybe that will be turned around. Oh no, you didn't look after my dog, or whatever. Maybe they feel really rude saying no. And there is a slight issue in that it's a reciprocal thing, that because we all know that people don't like to say no, people also don't like to ask favors of other people because they feel obligated. And it's a horrible cycle that everyone gets into. So what are the options that the neighbor who is being asked has that they can use to move forwards? This can also relate exactly the same, the options that we're going to give, to any other circumstance. So it could be that you're at work and the boss comes and says, oh, can you work over the weekend? Can you do that? Or a friend says, I'd like to come over for a kink play date this weekend. Can I come? And we don't want to do it for whatever reason. How can we say no? Well, what are the options we have? The first option is to say no. Now, that's probably the best option. No, sorry, don't want to. But it feels like the worst option. It feels nasty. It feels like you're rejecting the person you're saying no to. You might disappoint them. And as I say, you might be worried that if you say no now, then when you need them to, I don't know, pick up a parcel for them, for you, then they'll say no to that. So it doesn't feel right. You could, on the other hand, say yes and then live with the consequences. So in this case, when the neighbor says, can you take my dog over the weekend? You say yes, and then you spend the whole weekend hating your neighbor for the fact that they impose this burden on you. You go for walks with the dog, really moaning all the way around, and your relationship just erodes that little bit more. You maybe feel overwhelmed or stressed out, and maybe there's other things that you would have done, but you can't now because you're stuck with this mutt. You could say yes and then try to get out of it later. Now, this is the most disingenuous, disrespectful answer. And unfortunately, it's what happens quite a lot. Is people say, oh, yeah, that's fine. And then think, oh, no, I really don't want to. Oh, do you mind if I get out this time? That's unfair, because the neighbor might have had other people that they could have gone to, and they didn't in the meantime. They then made plans based on you saying yes. That's not very fair. You could say no and give reasons. This is what a lot of people would go for. No, sorry, I've got my niece coming round, or no, sorry, I was going to go into town and I'll be away for several hours. I don't think I could look after the dog. Now, that's the most obvious answer. However, it sets up a different problem, because what ends up is an arms race of reasons. Sometimes you just don't want to do something. And if you don't want to do something because you just want to care for yourself, because you've been stressed all weekend, and the last thing you need to do is to look after someone else's problem, how can you say no to that? So, because you've got no reason, and then you end up finding reasons for things. Oh, can I find a reason that is good enough to say no to this request? Not really great. So what's much better is to say no, but with softeners. So you say things like, I'm really sorry, but I'm trying to cut down on things I'm doing at the weekend at the moment. I hope you can find someone else. Or you say, due to my other commitments, I'm unable to help. Now, even then, in giving this example, I go to say, but I could another time. Now, the could another time just sets up the expectation that you will do it another time. So don't say it unless you mean it. Now, I've got commitments is really, really clever, because it doesn't say what those commitments are. The commitments could be that you're going off to meet the Dalai Lama to solve world poverty, or it could mean that you committed to your partner to sit on the sofa and binge watch a Netflix series and just have some calm in your life. But people never ask what are the commitments because they're not important. They know that you've made a rational adult decision not to go forwards. Now, I use this for a friend of mine who I happen to know is watching right now. Earlier today, he said to me, can I give you a ring after Mastering Life Shorts? And I said, sorry, I've got some stuff on. Now, he doesn't know whether I mean I'm going to finish binge watching the latest Netflix haunting series, or, which is actually the case, I'm going to be going to a online meditation class. It doesn't matter. The fact is, I have made a decision that I want to do something else. So I don't need to tell him what it is. He doesn't need to justify it. So saying no with softness and saying, sorry, I've got other commitments, or I'm a bit overburdened this weekend, or I'm a bit overwhelmed with the things I've got. All of those things are very fair. They're very kind, but they're kind to both of you and they're not rude. Now, there is one other option that you have, and it is your absolute superpower. Keep this one in mind. Stall. Oh, can I get back to you on that? Can I check my diary? Can I need to have a chat with my partner and check that's okay. Anything you can do to stall makes it easier, because it's very easy. We've been trained since birth to come up with yes. We've not been trained to come up with the softness to say, sorry, it's just not what I can do right now. So stall, and then tomorrow you can write that text or the email to your boss or whatever it is that allows you to give the reasons for saying no without being unkind. Now, I've said this before. Think about how you would respond. If someone said to you, if you said to someone, can you do something? And they said, sorry, I can't. I'm a bit overcommitted this weekend. What would you think? Would you think they were being rude? Most of the time, you would just go, oh, okay, fair enough. I'll find someone else. Now, if you are okay with people saying that to you, then why wouldn't other people be okay with you saying it to them? And to be honest, if they're not, apart from if they're your boss, if they're in a position of power and they're saying something and it's not actually a request, it's one of those, can you get to this to me by next Tuesday at 8 a.m? And you're thinking, oh, there goes my weekend. If you know that there's a power thing, then we're talking about something different. But otherwise, we're talking about most people are fine. And if they're not fine, do you really want them in your life in the first place? Now, in order to help you work through this, as always, I've got a worksheet. It's on my website, englishleathermaster.com/mastering-life-shorts. The password for this week is say no, capital S, capital N. On that worksheet, the first thing I get you to do is to sort of become much more aware of when you're saying yes to things that you didn't really want to say yes to. So you do that. And then after you've done that, you can start to look at why you're saying yes, and then start to think of ways of saying no, but with much more kindness to yourself and to other people. While you're on my website, it's worth having a look around. There's the other Mastering Life Shorts and all of their related webinars. There's also Mastering Life, the ebook, which you can download, the world's first LGBT plus and kink aware self-help book. And also you can book a free 30-minute coaching session so you can find out how coaching can really help you move forwards in your life. Next week, we're going to be talking about dopamine, that little chemical that's in our brain that gets us to do all sorts of things that we shouldn't be doing most of the time. So I'm looking forward to talking to you about that next week. So thank you very much and see you then.